So are people being allowed in now?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll give it another minute as quite a few people are logging in at the same time.
And you guys can see the intro screen, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, Meridian.
Hello. Can you
How's
guys hear
college?
me all right?
We
Yep.
can. How's college going?
Definitely very different than high school, but I am having a lot of fun. It's been
Excellent.
great.
Okay, we might as well get started. Quite a few people are signing in, and again, this is being recorded anyway, so if they missed it, they'll be able to go back. Want to welcome the thousands of you that are logging in right now to the presentation for the World Jamboree. It'll be taking place in, I think, just 22 months or 21 months. Time does fly. My name is Bill McKinney, the head of contingent for the U.S. We have other members of the executive team on the call tonight as well to talk about the different areas and what's been happening. They'll introduce themselves as we go through, but I have myself from Massachusetts, Greg Szynski from New York, Shimon, I won't pronounce his last name, we'll just go with Shimon, who's from Georgia, Ron Ratto, who is from California, Michael Files from Texas, and Ella Ozier from Wisconsin. So we've got a good executive team that's spread out across the country, been making presentations. So just to start off with, Greg and I went over to Poland a couple of weeks ago for a head of contingent meeting. We got to meet with the leaders of at least 50 different countries that will be attending the World Jamboree, as well as the Poland Organizing Committee. We also met with our U.S. Embassy as well. So the embassies involved, when we met with them, they'd already been informed that Canada and the UK, they talked to those embassies, and so they all know we're coming. They're all being prepared for that. One of the big takeaways that I had from meeting with the Poland planning team was how organized they are. Even this far out, they've been meeting with the representatives of their federal government, their regional government, their local government, the military. Like they're putting in all the plans to make this the safest, most fun, most memorable World Jamboree ever. And they took a lot of lessons from what happened in Korea, and are making sure that what things that may have happened in the past that didn't work out as well, that those issues are being addressed. So am I speaking the next one, Ella? Or
Yes.
okay. So the agenda, we're going to talk about the why, the World Jamboree, why are we going, the details about it, the logo, and the cost. So next. So why attend the World Jamboree? So the theme is bravely. Whatever you do, do it bravely. So it's really a once in a lifetime opportunity to join with tens of thousands of scouts from all over the world. So we go over there, it's going to be 45,000 plus from at least 140 different countries. So you're going to be over there, you're going to be camping next to scouts from other countries. You're going to be able to talk to them, learn their language, learn their culture, ask them questions. Everyone who goes is basically in high school, so you're all going to be around the same age. And it's a great opportunity to not only talk to people maybe from countries that your ancestors were from, or what you're studying in school, or maybe any languages and here's an incentive to learn a different language. So it's an incredible opportunity that you would never have any place else in a good, safe environment where literally they're right next to you. So to kind of start things off, we have some participants from the 2023 World Jamboree in Korea. So we have Thomas from Troop 10, Meridian from Troop 13, and then Adelaide, I think, is going to be doing the second one tonight. So I'll start off with Thomas. Why don't you tell us about what it was like to be a participant at the last World Jamboree?
Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Yeah, coming from California, I had a group of in Troop 10, we had 30 scouts. I knew some of them were from here in the Bay Area, some were from Seattle. Even in the first pre-tour that we had done, I was already getting to meet a lot of new people. And even in Seoul and other parts of Korea, we were already trading, meeting kids from Australia, the UK. And it was just like right off the start, right after we landed in Seoul, we got to do so much, see so many new things, and it was just so beautiful. And even after the pre-tour, when we got to the actual Jamboree site, I mean, we're camping next to kids from Japan, from Holland, and other parts of the world, and we just get to meet so many new people, regardless if we actually end up knowing them after the fact. But I mean, the connections we made from this, it's just such a great experience. I mean, I probably met kids from over 30 different countries, even in the short time we were there. And regardless of what happened, I would definitely go back. And I'm super excited to go to Poland in 2027.
Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate it. Meridian.
Hey guys, my experience was definitely a little bit different. I'm currently in New York for college, but I'm originally from the Panhandle of Florida. And I was one of 2 scouts from my entire council that went to World Scout Jamboree. And our troop, Troop 13, was from 13 different states. So none of us had met in person before going, and none of us knew each other. And it was so much fun to be able to go to a new country, meeting tons of scouts that you've met online over multiple months, and getting that experience to try something new. And like we said, bravely go and try something new. When we were in Korea, camping with other scouts, we were actually a half troop. So we got to camp in the same campsite as another half troop from Israel. And that was so interesting to be able to dance with them and eat with them and learn parts of their culture too. And there's this like language barrier that you have, but there's just things that connect everyone, like music and food and stories that can still be told, not so much through language, but by trading and everything else that comes with a world scouting experience that you really can't get any other place.
Excellent. Thanks, Meridian. Okay, who's up next?
All right, we're ready to talk about our details.
So my name is Szymon Łączny in Polish. I am originally from Poland. Thank you, Bill, for not messing up my name. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about the pre-tour. That's the part where you travel around the country, the host country, and you learn about the history, the culture, the scenery. And I'm partial, but Poland has a lot of beautiful things to offer. And we're going to be leaving as a contingent from several U.S. gateway cities, and arriving most likely in Krakow, and going to be visiting a place like Auschwitz, which is the museum to the victims of Holocaust, former Nazi concentration camp. Zakopane, which is in the south in the Tatra Mountains, which are very similar to the Rockies, and Warsaw, Warszawa in Polish, a city which now is Polish capital and historic center and has a rich history of scouting in World War II as well. Next. So to give you a perspective how the Poland looks like, Poland is about the size of a state of New Mexico, and imagine there are 38 million people living there. So it's a small country, well, a relatively small country, but a lot of people live there. And to give you an example, clockwise from top left, you have a view of the main square in Krakow. Then this on the next is the main gate to Auschwitz-Birkenau. which we're going to be visiting definitely. Then you have the skyline of downtown Warsaw, which is completely modern from the times when I was growing up and beautiful lit. And then Zakopane and the Tatra Mountains. So as you can see, this picture was probably taken in the spring because there is still snow on the mountain peaks. Because of the size of our contingents, we won't be doing any extensive hiking, but we might do some short hikes to some of the sites that are within the walking distance to visit. Next. So where the actual jamboree is going to happen, it's an island next to the city of Gdańsk. It's surrounded by Baltic Sea and Vistula River. It's called the Sobieszewo Island, or in Polish, Wyspa Sobieszewska. And it is a protected sanctuary. A lot of people are asking about the site itself. And this site has been tested before. It had the Polish National Jamboree. It was selected as a site for the European Jamboree that was canceled due to COVID. So this site has been tested by large crowds, and you can see in the picture, those are the sites from the Polish National Jamboree. Next. So the details, which are tentative, those are tentative dates. We're still waiting for confirmation from the travel agencies, but most likely the departure is going to happen on July 23rd. We're going to arrive. It's an overnight flight to Poland, and we're going to arrive on the 24th, do the pre-tour. And on the 29th, we're going to have to be in Gdańsk for registration. The Jamboree itself runs from July 30th through August 8th, which means that we're going to depart on August 9th. I know for some scouts, especially from southern states, there is a concern because first week of August, that's where school starts for many states. And I think the best way to handle that is go to talk to the principals and the teachers, because I'm pretty sure they will be wide open to you participating in the World event. You can even offer them a bribe in terms of doing an overview and presentation in class, and I think they will welcome that as well. Just one more thing. When you're in Europe, you need to get used to different date format. In Europe, the dates are written day, month, year. On official documents, it's flipped. So it's year, month, date. And that's it.
All right, Ron.
Hi, I'm Ron Ratto. I'm going to be handling and working on logistics and registration. So some of you have already seen and signed up. To participate as a youth, you need to be born between July 30th, 2009 and 2013. So while you're at the Jamboree, you'll be between the ages of 14 and 17. If you're older than that, you can serve on the International Service Team, also abbreviated IST. Anyone born before July 30th to 2009 can participate and serve on staff for the World Scout Jamboree. As you can imagine, with 40 to 45,000 people, we're going to be a city unto itself on that island. So everything that you're going to need, from between medical and food, as well as safety, you name it, there's jobs to do for those IST members. One thing to be aware, if you are going to be on IST, you're responsible for your own transportation. We're not going to schedule that, or mainly because depending on the job that you are ultimately assigned, you may need to show up a little bit earlier or stay a little bit longer. We're expecting the job postings to be available sometime around March of next year, where you can start to put in your preferences. If you're interested in being a unit leader, same thing, same age requirement. You'll need to be 18 or older. If you're interested in both being an IST member or a unit leader, please sign up now. If you're selected later to be a unit leader, we'll be able to change that registration over. If you're only interested in being a unit leader and not attending as a IST, you're going to need to hold off a little bit, and we'll go through the registration next year. Next slide. We've got some guest speakers. I believe is Tom currently on?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Yep.
so Tom was a parent of an IST member that attended the Korean World Jamboree. That'll be followed by Chris, who was a young IST member, and Greg. Greg, are you on?
Greg will be with us at the later session.
Oh, got it. All right. So you'll be hearing from Tom and Chris. So Tom, if you'd
Sure.
step right up.
Yeah, I'm on two screens because of, well, it's technical issues. Anyhow, so I'm talking on one and speaking on another. Anyway, I was an IST at the World Jamboree. My son was in a troop, contingent troop with Greg Cesny, and literally, I knew nothing about international jamborees when I signed up for it. I said, well, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, so I'll sign up and see what happens. I don't even know if I was offered the opportunity of being unit leader or an IST, but I'm glad that I chose that because, you know, most of the scouts going to the International Jamboree, to the World Scout Jamboree, are older, and you want to give them a little bit of independence. I'm the scoutmaster of my son's troop, and we all try to give our kids, our sons, our daughters, a little bit of space, but this gave him a chance to have his own adventure. But I was nearby if there was a problem, I was just interested to see what happens. So I think for the two of us, it worked out great. He was able to make his own friends, make his own way, have his own adventure, but also know that I was around if need be. And it was really, as mentioned earlier, you do have to arrange your own transportation. So I figured out when the contingent was going and got on the same flight. The contingent that was flying from Washington Dulles, which happens to be very close to where I live. So that worked out great for me. It got to the airport in Korea, and we were separated. And I didn't see him again for another 5 or 6 days. Well, he did the pre-tour, and I went to the site, and we tried to get it ready. From what I've heard, read, and been told, this is going to be a very different deal than in Korea. But we all, when we got there, everybody was given. I was on the events team, but they gave us lots to do. There was plenty to do. There was plenty of food, and there was no lack of activity for us. One thing I would say to any IST is the people who will be there from the rest of the world. It's a mix. Most of the ISTs from the United States, most of us, not all of us, but most of us were fathers and some moms, but mostly fathers. Or had scouts that are long since out of scouting in some cases, or taking a break between being a kid and adult. A lot of the ISTs from another part of the world are in their 20s and part of the scouting programs that are very different. So that was fascinating and it was a great experience for me, as some of the scouts mentioned, to talk to other leaders from around the world and eat with them and find out how very different scouting can be in different places. So if you're expecting to go to like a leaders roundtable type affair, it's not like that. And so that was really interesting for me. And as I said, I was able to go visit Troop 2, where my son was involved, and see them and hang out with them and help them out when they needed some help. Not that they were doing anything wrong, but the bureaucracy and some of the other things, they needed somebody to push some buttons when they weren't, they couldn't leave the site. I could. I had more freedom to move around. So all in all, being an IST was a great experience. It was a huge educational experience. And some of the things I learned, I took back to my own troop. So I definitely would recommend it. And depending on what my kids are doing next summer, I may join you.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Chris.
Yes. So my name is Chris Trong. At the time of World in 2023, I was 25. And like Ron mentioned, there's a lot of different jobs offered on site, right? So the one I chose was guest services, which meant that at World, there's like a reception hall almost, and then I got to help their team kind of like arrange the layout and greet guests every day. And the cool part about any job you do is that you'll meet a bunch of scouts from around the world. And the cool thing about staff is that, if you're willingly wanting to come work at a camp for 2 weeks, right, you're going to be a pretty devoted scouter, right? So you meet the best of the best from every different country. And I can kind of echo what Thomas said, both at my job and just going around the whole camp. A lot of the staffers from around the world tended to be more towards my age, right, 25. And the cool part about arranging your own travel is that if you end up in like events early, you'll more than likely see scouters from around the world with their neckerchiefs and whatnot, just walking around taking in all the sites. Like I know for me, I came into Seoul like a week early, and I remember as we steadily got closer to camp, I kept seeing more and more scouts, right? And that's to the point where me and a couple ISC from like Denmark, Sweden, we had like some US staffers from like Nashville just come all join together and have Korean fried chicken one night for dinner, right? So it's those experiences that really define what World is, just exchanging cultures, bonding together, going through something else. So you do your job, you meet a bunch of cool people from around the world. And then at night too, kind of like what Thomas mentioned, there's a lot of stuff that we can do as staff, right? We're not just going to work, going to eat, and then going to sleep, rinse and repeat, right? There's offsite excursions during your off days. There's dance parties every night. There can sometimes be like a cinema and whatnot too. I think Korea had a magic show for us one night too. So overall, World's an amazing experience, right? If it wasn't, I wouldn't be sitting on this call already registered to go again in 2 years, right? So I hope that a lot of you that are around, your 20s and whatnot, it is a big financial thing for us to pull off, but if you can, it is an amazing experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
Great, thanks, Chris. Next area we're going to talk about is the unit leader selection. If you don't already know, a unit consists of 36 youth participants and 4 adult leaders. It's going to be a very competitive process to be selected as a unit leader. We're going to be starting the selection process first quarter 2026. It should be completed and the application should be completed very early if you are interested. Once you apply, you will need to get the approval from your scout executive. For those that are selected for interview, that should be happening in the second quarter of 2026, and as well as acceptance or requests and asking for your acceptance in that second quarter. And again, very competitive process. A lot of people are going to apply, but we could only choose 4 for each unit. We definitely encourage you, if you're not selected, to please consider being an IST, because you're going to be able to see a whole different side of the jamboree that even some of the unit leaders aren't able to see and do. So it's definitely a great experience, whether you're a unit leader or IST. So encourage everyone to apply. The next slide. Registration is open now, so please, and I think that's the QR code is right there if you haven't already applied. November 1st is a key deadline that we have with the Polish Scouts. Is we have to put in how many units we want to bring, as well as IST. So please let your all your friends and family know. Any scouters that you know that might want to attend, please get registered, because we're going to base our request on what we have on hand November 1st. December 1st is when we will get our allocation back from Poland, and they'll tell us how many we're allowed to bring based on how many we've requested, and frankly how many the rest of the world has applied. So it's a very excuse me, a very intense time frame. So please get registered if you aren't already. January, the last date that's going to be important. Everyone that's registered right now, you saw that January, that first week in January is when your first deposit is due. So please start saving up and be ready for that first payment in January.
All right. Thank you very much, Ron. And I'll share about our contingent logo. For those of you who have been either at a national event or an international event, you know trading is very common. And one of the things that we like to do is to be able to tell the story behind our logo. And so it will be on neckers and patches, etc. And what Poland did was give us some basic elements. So this outline that you see here is what they specified, along with the Bravely emblem, this circle with the arrow, the name of the country and our country. The rest of it needed to have a certain design elements. So there is a story behind it. I know I traded about 30 patches and neckers in Korea, but the really interesting part was to learn the culture and the story behind the patches. And so you can see here our elements. Obviously, we have a bald eagle, which is easily associated with America. And it's amongst the stars and the clouds to give it relevance of our freedom and our challenges that we have. And if you're keen on some scenery here, we also have the Tooth of Time and Baldy outlines with permission from Philmont for us to do that. And then a tip to being a part of the international world, this patch will be outlined in purple, and that's to represent our unity with other countries. So that's our logo that's been designed. We got feedback from a variety of different sources in order to arrive at that final design. And so, Greg, we are going to go into our cost discussion.
Thanks, Ella. Appreciate it. Everybody is always questioning what is the cost of a World Scout Jamboree. Before we get into the details, I would like to share with you how the cost is made up. We found this logo actually from another country, and we thought that the graphic really represents the full cost of a Jamboree very well, so we borrowed it. As you can see from the outside, there's really three big components of the World Jamboree fee. The fee itself, which is the actual cost that the Jamboree management team, or Poland, charges each individual, whether it's a participant, whether it's a unit leader, a CMT, or IST. That's a fixed fee. The next really big one is the flight. We're going to go into the flight a little bit more, but as you can see, based on knowledge that we've had from previous World Scout Jamborees, based on preliminary discussions we've had with several global travel agents, this is your flight is approximately 1/3 of the entire cost of the Jamboree. The other big chunk is the pre-tour. Shimon very, very well explained the different areas of Poland that we'll be visiting, especially the southern part, which is probably one of the most beautiful parts of Poland. So that fee is about 19–20% of the whole. So taking a look at the actual Jamboree fee, which is a fixed fee, the flight, which we're going to find out pretty soon over the next year, and the pre-tour, we're talking about 80% of the fees. And then as you go forward, we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about some of those other expenses. Swag is always something that everybody's excited about. I know Ella talked a bit about our contingent patch. We'll talk about some of the other swag that happens. And then operations, we're going to go into a little bit more detail as to what that really means. And that's, a small amount. Next slide, please. So cost overview. Okay, for somebody who's done a lot of budgeting in different organizations, professionally and volunteer-wise, this was a tough one. We took a lot of input from previous jamborees. We took a lot of input from draft pre-request for proposals to various travel agencies and tour providers. We had individuals to take a look at what would a plane ride look like from the 15 or so hub cities to different parts of Europe and Poland. We had Shimon take a look at bus routes and everything. We got a lot of input, and as we kind of go through to try to figure out what the cost of the Jamboree is, that's where you see that 6,200 to 6,700 cost, at least for participants and unit leaders. And then you see it's a significant amount less for IST members. Easily for IST, the big reason why it's less is that you're taking care of your own flight, and you will not be doing a pre-tour with us. We'll talk about what the IST will have in terms of costs that are specific to you, but that's why the cost for the IST is significantly lower for the participants. But for the participants, we took a range from what we knew and extended that to those areas where we had some understanding to areas where we had kind of a historical reference to get to that number. And as we get closer to the actual date, those numbers will crystallize. We'll get more information as we go forward. But bottom line, the leadership team that you see on the call today, plus others, many of the professionals that we have, the senior professionals within Scouting America, our goal is to make sure that thriftiness is that North Star that we're shooting for. We are going to make sure that those purchases, those contracts that we go and enter into is really going to be focused on providing the maximum value for the least amount of cost. And it's going to be a very tricky balance, but more importantly, we're going to be very transparent as we go through the entire process. Next slide, please. As I showed you before in the first wheel, 80% of the Jamboree fee really falls under three categories: the actual fee itself, the airfare, and the pre-tour experience. Poland set the Jamboree fee based on certain categories. The category that we are in is category D, which means we pay 6,400 Polish zloty, which equates to about 1,770, under $1,800, depending on what the exchange rate is at this point. Those of you who went to Korea, or at least knew the cost structure for Korea, that's a significant increase. It's about $800 more than the fee event in South Korea. And a lot of that has to do with infrastructure. A lot of that has to do with just the increase in the cost of running that event over the years due to just inflation of food and other resources. So that is the one aspect of the Jamboree cost that we know now, and that we've done some hedging in terms of early bird registrations to hedge some of those expenses. The airfare, well, that's going to be a little tricky one. We've taken a look, working with Ron Redo, because if those of you who worked in the South Korean Jamboree at 23, Ron was really focused on making sure the travel was spot on. And the travel, we're not going to find out what that cost will be until at least 330 days from the date of departure. Those of you who do a lot of travel understand that airlines don't publish their fee structures till 11 months from the date. So we won't even know for about a year what the cost is. However, based on research that we've done, some preliminary information that some of our proposed travel partners have provided us, that aspect of the travel is going to be significant. What we tried to take a look at also, we have a couple options to see if we're going to have similar hub cities like we did for South Korea. We had approximately 15 hub cities throughout the US that flew directly into Seoul. Right now, we're looking to see, frankly, based on the numbers of participants that register and the spread of where the registrants are throughout the US, that'll help determine, working with our travel vendor, where those hub cities will be. And other considerations will be, since many of the hub cities that we had for South Korea, they flew directly into Seoul. For Poland, there are fewer cities that do direct flights. So we have some decisions to make as to, do we do some transfers within the United States, or do we transfers in Europe to get to the final location where we're going to kick off our pre-tour visit. So again, I'm giving you just information, more information to follow on the airfare. Again, it really depends on where the scouts are coming from for participants, and eventually what the fees will look like from the airlines about 330 days out. The pre-tour experience, we're looking 3, 4, 5 day of tour. And of course, that really depends on working with the vendors, the travel vendors in Poland, and getting us there. The relationships that we're building now, we know very, very well that many of the major tour providers, especially those that are affiliated and their official tour partners of the Jamboree, they are buying up locations. They're buying up hotel rooms. They're buying up dormitories in preparation for these tours to happen, based on informal conversations from contingents as to where we want to go. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a look. Our goal is to have a pre-tour very similar to what Shimon provided. But of course, if all of a sudden fees change, or expenses change, or times, locations are going left or right, or up or down, we're going to make that decision to give the best value, but also making sure that you're not only going to the World Jamboree and participate in the on-site activities. Half of the value of going to a World Scout Jamboree is getting to know in depth that country that you're visiting. Just like we did in South Korea and Jamborees previously, getting to know the country that's hosting the Jamboree is really valuable. That's one of the great parts of going to a World Jamboree. So again, those are the big three. We're going to keep you informed as we get closer. Each of these numbers will flesh out and get more crystallized, and we'll keep sharing that with you as we go forward. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, cost breakdown. I know we talked about swag. We talked about some of the other operations and other expenses, and this is really what it's going to look like. Swag and gear. We argued amongst ourselves. We put a backpack. We put a duffel. Rather than promising something that may or may not happen, we said something like a travel bag, something like a day pack. You're definitely going to get neckerchiefs, patches, t-shirts, or other types of things. But we also want to make sure that what we're selecting and the costs and the vendors that we choose is reasonable. Everybody wants more and more swag, but the problem is you have to pay for it. So we're very mindful as to what we get and the cost of those things, to include working with other vendors within the US and our BSA national supply to see if there are other items that can be labeled with our Scouting America contingent logo that could be optional items. So we're doing considerations like that. Tents and cots. Unlike South Korea, the Jamboree is not providing tents or cots, so we have to put them as part of the package. Now, in order to kind of reduce that, we're also working with our peers throughout the world to see if we could find a common vendor that could support multiple contingents and actually have those items delivered to the Jamboree site, kind of like the cooking equipment or the other kit that's provided by the Jamboree. If we could work it so that we have a much better purchasing power and also is delivered, that would eliminate the requirement for us to carry those or deal logistically with a container or a shipping container like we have to do in South Korea. Insurance. Obviously, there's different types of insurance to include the Scouting America taking a look at insurance for participants. The Jamboree management team is also looking for different aspects of insurance. We're going to have travel insurance as part of the fees. So it's just a way to mitigate risk. and to mitigate some costs that just in case something happens one way or another, either individually or as a contingent. Life is uncertain, so we have to make sure that risk as we manage the risks, insurance is a very legitimate way of managing those issues. And then there's a contingency, just like many of you have done in your local units or councils. There's a small contingency fee buffer just in case something happens one way or the other. For IST, Ron kind of kicked it off a little bit. There's certain things that are included and certain things that are not included, and that's why the price is different. Not included airfare. Ron nailed it. Depending on the position and the role that you have, you will be asked to arrive on site a day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, whatever it is, ahead of time, and you might be asked to stay a day or 2 days afterward in order to break down or to fulfill your commitment and your responsibilities. So travel on your own is going to be something where you're able to manage yourself. Tours. In South Korea and other World Jamboree locations, they do have pre-tours or post-tours, depending on what's available. These tours are not going to be done with the U.S. contingent. IST members will not be participating with contingent pre-tours, even though your timeline might align with it. The Jamboree management team is working with Mazurka's travel agency to develop various pre and post tours that you could reserve at an additional cost, and that'll be identified and shared with IST members at a later date through the Jamboree management team. Included, you're going to get the same swag and gear like you saw for South Korea. We had the different patches, contingent patches for units. We had the white, the IST had the red, and the CMT had the blue. So we'll have different types of patches and swag. Tents and cots, similar. We'll give you the option to purchase those with us. Insurance and contingency, some of the fees will also include that. Next slide, please. And at this point, the finance part is finished. I would like to pass it back to Bill.
Okay, thank you, Greg, and thank you to the other presenters. We really wanted to give people kind of the range of who would be going over. So we wanted to have a couple of participants talk about what it was like to go. We wanted to have IST talk to what it was like to go, especially those, I know a lot of people are interested in being unit leaders, mostly because, their child is going to be going. And, as was mentioned, there's not enough spots for everyone who wants it, which is why we wanted to, get a perspective of an IST parent, that they could still go enjoy the Jamboree, still meet up with their child, whenever they wanted, and still have a great experience for both people. So at this point, there were some questions that had come through. We've been trying to answer them as they come up, but at this point, does anyone have any questions that, that they'd want to ask? And I don't know if it can only be done through the chat.
Through the Q&A.
Through the Q&A. So if you have any, just type it in and we'll see if we can answer it.
There's one opened question now. What will leadership look like on the Scout side? So
leadership on the Scout side will be, the units will have, it's basically broken into 4 patrols. So you'd have 4 patrols of 8, and then you'd have like a senior leadership team of 4. So that's really up to each unit how they want to divide that. But typically, like in my unit, we had a senior patrol leader, a couple of assistants, and we had a quartermaster, and then we had 4 patrol leaders. So each unit's going to probably follow a similar type of pattern, and as they form the units, that's when they will decide the structure that they want. But it would be 4 patrols. The other 4 leadership positions, obviously you have a senior patrol leader, an assistant senior patrol leader. Some might have a scribe, some might have the quartermaster, but typically there would be those 8 leadership positions, 4 patrol leaders, and then the 4 other senior leaders per unit. And how they decide who gets those roles. For us, we did we had the kids apply, and then we interviewed them and checked on references, and then decided it that way. It is tougher because, you know, we had to meet over Zoom because we were spread out as a lot of units, especially at the beginning. You know, you don't get a chance to meet each other in person right away. So, you know, we had to do it, you know, over Zoom.
All right, our next
Bill,
question.
Actually, you know, Bill, let me share another perspective that from a different, slightly different, just to kind of give a broader perspective. So I was a scoutmaster for Troop 2, and the way we figure out the youth leadership was very similar to an NYLT model where we have the senior patrol leader and we also had assistant senior patrol leader for program, for logistics, for food. So what we tried to do, we tried to link up one of the adult leaders who was focused on logistics or medical or whatever, and then have a youth lead that directly tied with that adult lead too. So that seemed to work well. And as Bill mentioned, it's really going to be a conversation among the 4 adult leaders. And then we also did a questionnaire and an interview to determine which scouts were interested. And then I selected the senior patrol leader. And then the senior patrol leader and I and the other unit leaders, we worked to identify and select the assistant senior patrol leaders and went down that way. The World Jamboree troop is a little bit different of a beast than a normal unit. And for the most part, most scouts don't know each other. So for me, my previous experiences in 2019, where we did it slightly differently, led to the way I set it up in 2023, which I thought worked well. Did it work perfectly? No, but I think it was a good model to follow. Very similar to what Bill did. I'm sure Ellen did something maybe similar, maybe even different.
Ours was a little different because we were from 13 states. And so we spent probably a month of meetings. Our scouts decided to do weekly virtual meetings because we were not going to get together. And they did a lot of team building first before they selected their leaders. And so I think that worked well because there was a period of time that they could do some offsite, offline as well as online conversations. But I think the most important part is it is truly on our scout model where the youth are the leaders and the adults are there to guide for safety, which we did spend a lot of time on safety. But in the end, our youth can be fabulous leaders, and so we just need to encourage them and guide them in ways to learn how to interact culturally with other countries. All right, we have some more questions here. The next one is, how much is the January 2026 deposit?
It's $1,500 for participants and $750 for IST. And we will pretty soon have that whole payment schedule set up. So from the first payment in January, you know, through the final payment in 2027.
All right, and the next question, do ISTs camp with the US contingent or do we camp with other ISTs? So I'll take a stab at this one, Bill, to give you a break.
Thank you.
First of all, the US contingent doesn't camp together. Each unit camps together and we are intermingled with all the other countries. And so in Korea, we were all in different subcamps. That gave us the maximum ability to interact with other countries. Then there is an area for staff. So the IST are with other countries' staff, but not with the participants. But it's not like that you could never see each other. I had 8 parents who were on staff, and at some point every day, somebody stopped by our campsite to say hi. So it's all walking distance and there can be interaction. All right, is there a limit to the number of IST positions the US can send?
There is. One of the rules that they do have is that you cannot have more adults than youth in your contingent. You know, the Jamboree goal is 36,000 participants and 10,000 IST. So I think for Korea, you know, we did have 18 units, so we had probably just under 700 youth and unit leaders, and then it was about 300 IST. So at this point, you know, with the deadline of November 1st for us to set our contingent size, you know, we'll be able to take at this point anyone who signs up by November 1st. And then at that point, we have to decide how many more do we want.
All right. The next one's a piece of advice from one of our participants who served as an IST. And that's just to emphasize that the leaders and IST are not on vacation. We work hard, but we have a lot of fun. And it's also, especially for the leaders, it starts next Q2. So it's about a 15 to 18 month commitment, just to keep that in perspective. All right, and our next question, will National BSA offer any fundraising assistance or opportunities to help with costs for the Scouts going?
Right now, no. Everything we have planned is if we were not able to raise any funds. We will be going out trying to solicit donations for camperships and sponsorships and things like that, but that's not anything that's guaranteed. One thing we will be putting out on the website is, ways to go out and do fundraising. Obviously, there's popcorn sales. There are perhaps some campership money through your local council, and through charitable organizations that are promoting kind of the worldwide exchange of ideas, like the Rotary or Kiwanis or different things like that. So, ones that would typically give some college scholarships, might be open to donating for part of the cost of this, because it really is a chance to get out and meet people from all over the world and be able to, kind of expand that global perspective. So those things we will be putting out on the website.
Yep. Our next question is about unit formation. So how are the members of the units determined? Will we use home units grouped by zip code, etc.?
So what we try to do is form the units geographically. We want to get them, as close together as possible. There's no, I don't think any, except for maybe California or Texas, that might have multiple units. A lot of states, may only have, 9 or 10 or 12 scouts going. So, we try to get them as close as possible. It also depends, when you sign up. So, we will hold off as long as possible, get everyone together and then form the units. People may drop out and then other people may join in, and the unit that they're nearby, might be full. So there are some changes that might happen, but for those who sign up, as soon as possible, we will group them together. So if there are, multiple scouts from the same unit, we're keeping them together. I know sometimes there's a philosophy of, oh, let's, split them up so that they can force them to meet new people. No, we want to make sure that, if you're going with friends from your own troop, you're going to stay in the same jamboree.
Yep. Also in the application, you will select either male only, female only, or co-ed unit, and that will also determine the distribution to your units. So make sure that you choose the appropriate one when they do their application. All right, next, thanks, Jim. Jim has already registered his interest in being a part of the polling planning team medical volunteer with IST. And they said, contact our NSO. So we talked a little bit earlier, there will be a IST catalog that comes out March of 26. So you will get notified of that, and you'll be able to go in and look at all the different medical type volunteer positions that you can sign. So choose the one that fits your background the best, but that will be available for you in March of 2026. All right, the next one is a little bit more complex. It has to do with guardianship and ability to get out of the country with a passport. You might want to take a look at that first bill before you, or maybe that's something we'll need to take offline to be able to answer. But it does point to the fact that each person will need to have a valid passport. And so there will be travel visas that are required in Europe. So, but all of that information will be shared with everybody ahead of time. Do we want to take Jennifer's offline, and we'll get back to you, Jennifer, to help you answer your question. Okay. All right, so could the list of tour companies be shared for IST? So there is an official IST travel tour company, correct?
Yes, there is. The company is Mazurkas, and they will be providing, they're still working on developing those tour packages. So you're probably at least a year out from even knowing what those various packages will be.
Okay. Yep. From the airfare, though, they don't offer airfare assistance. That is something that you would do on your own as an IST.
That is a very interesting question. Right now, no. However, there are different airlines, for example, LUT and maybe even Mazurkas, the travel agency. They're going to see if they might be able to do that, but they're not geared to be able to do individuals, but they're looking to see if they could group regions. But that's again that might come out in another year, but that's as far as they went without committing to anything because they know it's going to be a Herculean, if not impossible task.
All right, excellent. All right, so Alan has asked that we recommended adults to sign up as IST. There's a deposit for $750. If you are then selected as a unit leader subsequent to that, there is some magic that Ron will work behind the scenes to switch you to a unit leader. It is a different cost structure, and so you would be informed at that time how to be able to take care of catching up, for lack of a better word, on your payments. All right. Another question: will Scouts fly as unaccompanied minors, or will I need to get him to the hub city? All right, Bill, you want to, or maybe who's doing our?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know what?
Oh,
Go ahead,
Greg.
Bill. Sorry.
Nope. How are you?
Okay. Yes, both actually. You will be traveling as an unaccompanied minor. You will be starting from a hub city. Now, we're not quite sure what those hub cities are. Again, as I kind of mentioned in my portion with the travel, depending on the geographic spread of the participants, we're going to see two things. One, where everybody is, and then working with the airlines to see if we can figure out, is it better to do fewer hub cities in the US where they kind of congregate together and then they fly as a bigger group from the US? Or do we have different layovers across Europe to get into a final city in Krakow? Again, that's still to be determined based on the numbers and where everybody is and what the travel agency recommends. But for example, in South Korea, what we had to do, people were making sure that they, in addition to their medical form ABC that talked about who they could travel with as trusted adults, we also had different statements that allowed the youth, or actually allowed the hub leaders, usually a unit leader who is acting as a hub leader within a particular city, to have not legal guardianship, but be able to speak on that youth's behalf. Some of the challenges, just in case somebody loses their passport or they get stuck in customs, if documents like that were not provided or endorsed by the families, then the unit leader would not have any legal authority to speak on behalf and to help the youth in a situation like that. So that'll be something that Ron is going to work with once we understand better what the airlines require and what Poland requires. But yeah, that is something that we are very aware of, and it's complex but important.
And
But I will say,
yeah, let me interject there. I think the question was also getting to the hub city. Yes, everyone will be responsible for getting to the hub city. That will be your responsibility, depending on where you're coming from and where you have your hub cities. So yes, it could be you could fly unaccompanied minor, but I would imagine you should be able to get a direct flight from wherever you are to the hub city. So you can get them on the plane, and we'll be there on the other end to receive them at the hub city.
so I'm just gonna, I'll do the mom side of this one. I sent a son to Japan in 15, and half of his troop had never been on a plane or been out of the country, and everything went smoothly. They found the ones who knew how to do it, and people just followed them. And so it really is a well orchestrated process in Korea. At any point in time, our travel agent knew where every single person was and who was responsible for them. The unit leaders are flying with them, so everything worked well. And so if that's a concern, I'll just let you know, it is so well coordinated and so according to all of the rules of safety that we have in Scouting America. So I'll just put it out there. That's probably not the biggest concern that you will have overall because the travel agency helps us a lot. All right. So Simone, did you have more to add to Alan's question? Because you wrote that you wanted to answer that one.
No.
No. Okay, so I can ignore that. All right. So Janelle has asked, if a scout expressed interest and did the $150 deposit, are they definitely in the contingent, or is there a selection process?
The $1,500?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be 1,500, but it said 150. But yeah, if they've made the deposit, are they definitely in the contingent?
I hit the button we still need to answer Alan's question. I hit the button accidentally.
I answered that question live.
Okay.
Yeah, if they sign up for IST, Ron will do his magic in the registration system if they are selected to be a unit leader. And at that time, we would give them the instructions to what they need to do.
All right.
Yep. So if a person, so Bill, maybe you can speak to this about the whole registration process.
So if they've signed up now and you know, prior to us submitting our contingent size, you know, and then obviously pay the deposit in January, approved by their scout executive, then yes, they are part of the contingent. They're right. There is no interview process for the scouts, again, aside from the scout executive approval. And so, yeah, right now, you know, we're taking everyone. Like you said, after November 1st, when we have to set our contingent size, that's when we don't know, you know, what extra spots will be available.
All right. So the next question from Roberto, can a participant who might already be in Europe in the time frame meet the contingent in Poland, or do they have to meet and depart from the hub city to fly out together? And maybe it would be helpful. Yeah, it might be helpful. Roberto, is this scout a part of the Transatlantic Council? Because that would make a difference, right? And I don't know if he'll know to answer. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reduction in the fee, but we will try to work with people on a one-off basis because there are some people that, you know, that might be in Europe with the family, you know, and so that's something we would work out with the travel agent.
All right. And our next one is to clarify, those interested in leader only shouldn't register yet, but that they need to sign up for emails. But if you want to be either an IST or leader, sign up now, but picking leaders isn't until February. So I actually, just a second, I forgot after Bravely Ask, I forgot to change the slide. So there, whoops. There are 3 other QR codes now showing on the screen. The US Contingent website, the mailing list, which we referred to, and the Facebook group. So maybe that will help answer part of that question for you, Bill. For Donica, so she was wanting to know about signing up. So those QR codes can be used to do that. All right, next one. Why is there an option for co-ed versus segregated?
Because the you know, there's co-ed in venturing crews. So when we went over to Korea, we had 10 male units, we had 3 female units, and then the others were co-ed units. So you know, now that scouting is co-ed, you know, there are people that could be in venturing, you know, that go. Some people might be, you know, testing the co-ed units. So it's, you know, it's really up to them. And we, you know, that's where we're going to try to place everybody. It depends again on the distribution, but you know, that's where we're going to try to place people in the type of unit that they feel comfortable in.
Yep. So this is a good timing question, Bill. So if I don't get picked for leader or IST, but I've put a deposit. So we would already know our allocation before they make a deposit in January, correct?
Yes.
So that would alleviate anybody who might sign up to be IST, but on a first come first serve basis may not get selected because of our allocation.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Katie. So Katie Withers has, who has a lot of experience in other prior World Scout Jamborees. WOSM usually collects the tents and gear at the end of the Jamboree, and they donate to the countries needing gear. So there will be, as Ron talked about, we are a Class D group. So we pay a higher fee to help make sure it's truly a world event. So those countries that maybe can't afford it are the ones who typically take the tents home with them to help fund their units back in their home countries. But that decision hasn't been made yet.
Correct.
It actually, go ahead, Bill.
I was just going to say, so someone had asked about, in 2019, like I have my tent from 2019, and then of course there's 2 scouts per tent. So we had to decide, okay, who gets the tent? The problem was like for a lot of the international units, that wanted to take the tent home, then they got to the Charlotte airport and like, oh, no, you got to pay to, have that extra bag fee. And guess what? There were probably hundreds of tents left at the Charlotte airport. So, it's something that, we do not have the answer to that yet, and we'll have an answer, but it won't be for a while.
All right. What is the refund policy for those who have plans or situation changes leading up to the Jamboree?
So right now, as we develop the payment schedule, so the first payment of $1,500 that's due in January, 200 of it is non-refundable, and then that non-refundable portion will increase as time goes along. If we're able to find a replacement, that will help. We don't want to create a hardship on anyone, but we have a lot of expenses that we're putting money out for as well. So, we're trying to make it as fair as possible, but we will get that the whole payment schedule and refund, as time goes along, scheduled before that first payment is due in January.
All right. This is a question I'll field for you, Bill. This goes back to unaccompanied flights. So once a scout reaches the hub city, they will always be accompanied according to Scouting America safety rules. The only unaccompanied would be getting to the hub city. Some families will choose to drive to the hub city so that they know their scout makes the connection. But we also have a very orchestrated way. If those scouts who fly in unaccompanied will be met with by at least 2 adults who will take them then to the group. So there's no unaccompanied international flying. All right.
And Ella, also the travel agent. So even if people are coming in on a different airline to that hub city, we'll make sure that the travel agent has that travel information. So if the flight's delayed or whatever else, we'll always know where they are, even if they haven't yet reached our hub city.
Yep. So next question is, where do I find the sign up for the IST form? So I've just gone back to the registration logo or QR code. So anybody who's been listening and during this conversation has decided to register, that QR code is now up for you to be able to scan. All right, the next one is, I've been invited to apply as part of the Jamboree delivery team as a tech expert for the forest module. But if that doesn't work for whatever reason, I'd like to go as IST. Should I apply as IST now or hold off a while to see how the Jamboree team option works? That's from Katie. So Katie, maybe we'll have to help you offline on that one to better understand what that might entail.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. So next question is, how many scouts have already signed up?
I'm not sure the exact number. I know we've already filled several units worth. And, so we're just, continuing to get the word out and, to make sure that, we have a good estimate prior to the end of October. But I know we've had enough to fill several units already.
All right. And the next question for our pre-tour, so Shimon, this is probably more for you. Just a suggestion on one of the places to go to visit.
Yeah, Velichka is definitely one of the places that we had in plans when talking to Mazurkas, who was putting together a kind of their outline schedule, and definitely I agree with you. That's a place that is kind of must see. but it will also depend on all the other logistical questions. It's, you know, you have to take under consideration the fact that our contingent is going to be fairly large. There's going to be several hundred people, and some of the museum and places cannot handle them at one time. So we will have to figure out some logistical way to handle those visits, because if you have you know, whatever the number of scouts we have, several hundred scouts from the US going to Velichka, they'll be going down the steps for 4 hours. But it is definitely something that is on the list. We just have to figure out logistics.
All right. So Jim, let me just clarify quickly. There is a first step of IST registration. That is just to get your name on the list, first come, first serve. And that's what is happening right now. Because when we meet our limit of IST, then we'll be finished. The March date is when you get to actually choose your assignments and or prefer, make preference for your assignments of what you would do while you're there. So that's the March 26th date. And that only goes out to people who have already been approved to be an IST member. All right, this is about the tents. Yep, so there were a lot of brand new girls troops that actually got tents from the 2019 Jamboree. Very few tents came home from Korea, mostly because, once again, baggage fees to be able to carry those internationally. So we'll be revisiting or visiting tent allocation sometime much closer to the Jamboree itself. All right, so will there be a way sharing contact information that IST can potentially coordinate travel? Excellent question.
Yes, there will be. So we will have amongst our contingent management team, there will be an IST commissioner. And you know, right now the plan is that, you know, once we get the IST set, again, you can't book your flight until 11 months in advance anyway, so we have plenty of time. But you know, we'll ask the IST members if they're willing to you know, have that information be sort of public amongst the IST, so that we can then say, hey, you know, there's 5 people that live near Houston, you know, here all you guys are in case you want to, you know, get together and connect. So, you know, if you're willing to opt into that, then we're willing to let everyone else know in your area, so you can figure out flights or even get together beforehand if you don't know each other.
All right, how do I apply as IST, and will we be able to do some pre-tour? So the registration QR code is now showing. If you scan that, you can go ahead and log right in as an IST. And then the pre-tour and post-tour will be done through the Jamboree travel agency. And so if you're registered as an IST, you would get information regarding the details of that later. All right, we're out of questions. But I spoke much too soon. All right, so the next question is, I know it's impossible to predict what will happen in 27, but can the contingent leadership comment on thoughts and contingency plans with regard to war in Ukraine? Are Russian scouts participating in the World Scout Jamboree?
Russia does not, as a communist country, Russia does not have a scouting program. Neither does China or Cuba, or I think any of the communist countries. So as far as, you know, what's happening in Ukraine, like I said, we met with our U.S. embassy. You know, the military is aware that we're coming over there. The U.S., you know, the greatest military in the world, does have a presence in Poland, and an even larger presence next door in Germany. You know, the Polish army, Poland is a member of NATO. So everyone's working together to make sure that this is a very safe jamboree.
All right, and the next question is, everyone that has already registered, were they invited to this meeting?
That is correct. All the people that were on the mailing list, that signed up for the mailing list, were emailed the links to this meeting, to those meetings, because there's another one at 9 p.m. Eastern, so it's about 45 minutes, as well as those who registered for the contingent already, but were not on that mailing list. There was information about this meeting as well. So everybody should have gotten something. Unfortunately, the problem that we're often facing is that those emails might go to spam folders, and that's why on the website we always encourage people to check their spam folders. I had a participant today who asked me about the link and then sent me an email 5 minutes later. Oh, I found it in my spam folder. So check your spam folders for information, for newsletters, for any type of communications that go directly, or you can check both on Facebook or on our website, because we post that same information on all three platforms: email, website, and Facebook.
All right, so the next question, so in Korea, the leaders were allowed 2 bags. So one was personal and one was troop gear. And the youth had 1 bag. Are we looking at the same thing this time?
Probably. I know that that's something we'll be talking about with our travel agent.
Okay. Next one, which I'm glad to hear this one. So how can the international representatives support the scouts attending? And will you share who is registering with the IR, or is that something we need to get from our councils? So, and maybe, I don't know if everybody here on the call knows what an IR is. Not every council even has one. So Bill, if you want to handle that question, please.
So, could you repeat that? So the question has to do with whether
the IRs and each,
Yep.
the councils that have IRs, will we be sharing the names of the scouts from that council with the IR so that they can help coordinate them, or do they need to just go to their own IR on their own if they've registered?
Let me jump in. Let me jump in here.
Okay.
We'll have to find out what information we can share or not share with the councils. We got to be careful on sharing information. Yeah, we'll have to get back. We'll have to figure that out. Definitely, the IRs can help by publicizing it as much as possible now. Get anyone that's interested, get them registered now, because as we said, November 1st, we've got to put in our numbers.
Yep. And if you are an IR, or your council's IR, we just had one with Pathway to Adventure Council earlier this week. The IR coordinated that entire conversation and invited people. So I'm just saying, if you know people, encourage them to reach out to us, and we will help in any way we can to recruit. All right. Somebody has the same question as Katie regarding direct IST opportunities I'm considering. Please include me in offline answers. Okay. And then here's
Thanks,
some
Tree. Just another one
tips.
is you can email also USA Poland 2027 comms, COMMS @gmail.com. That's the communications group email, because that way it will get you faster on the mailing lists. If you had a difficulty, or I can check if the emails that I have bounced or not.
All right. So the next one. So I've signed up for the mailing list twice. I don't know if we're trying to get rid of duplicates, but some people have done that. So okay. Registered for IST and was approved by my council, but have not received any correspondence aside from my registration approval emails.
Well, it goes back to we send emails using the email engine, and sometimes the individual providers block those emails, or the emails end up in spam. So unfortunately, there's also a possibility that if you registered very recently, that you haven't gotten any information yet because we haven't mailed anything. But in most cases, if you can send me your email to the USA, the email that Brea posted on the chat, that USA Poland 2027 comms@gmail.com. I'll verify if you are on the mailing list, and if not, I can add you to it.
All right, and I'm going to make a plug here for our communications team. In Korea, I know that some people signed up and then didn't hear anything literally for months. I will encourage anybody who has a youth who has already registered or IST, be sure to get on our website, the mailing list, and the Facebook group. There's some really fabulous information. We're learning a lot about the culture. We're learning about Poland. So we are on a periodic basis sharing information throughout this time span so that individuals will be more connected rather than this, I'll call it dark space. All right. Another question about how scouts are routed or filtered to the units. We spoke to that a little bit earlier. Our preference will be, based on their unit type, male, female, or co-ed, and then geographic distribution. So if I've received the council approval email, then my registration is all set, correct?
Yes.
And then
And that's what you,
and
that's
then
what
you'll
you
be
get to
getting the
review.
link at the beginning of January to make the deposit.
Yep. And early bird gets the worm in this case, right? So first come, first serve. So please encourage youth who are interested to get registered now so that they have a secured spot for our contingent. All right, we have now answered all of the questions that have been posed. Is there anything from the rest of this leadership team here, anything that you could think of that we haven't touched on?
I think we've covered it. And, again, the USA Poland 2027 at gmail.com. A lot of people have been sending their questions along. I've been answering them every day and getting back to people. So if anything happens to come up, we're taking the questions from tonight and others that we have, developing an FAQ that we'll be putting out on the website. So hopefully be able to get some questions answered that way. This will not be our last call like this. We'll have some others just to keep people informed, about what's going on and be able to answer any questions that they have.
So I have one thing that I'll just talk about because I also am a member of Order of the Arrow. So most of you may or may not know that NOAC 2027 and the World Jamboree conflict in timeline. They are organized by two different units. If you have a youth who is interested in both, this was the advice I gave to my son when he had that situation. You only have one time that you can go to World Jamboree. There's no exception. If you want to go as a participant, you have to go when your time slot is 14 to 17. Can't go any other time. You can go as a IST, but if you want to be a participant. So if that is their age range in 27 and they want to do both, I would advise that they consider the World Jamboree. They can do the Order of the Arrow NOAC convention when they're 12 and 13, or they can do it when they're 18 or older. But they cannot do the World Jamboree except during their own age range of 14 to 17. So that is a question that we're commonly asked because anyone who knows about both events is trying to figure out what can we do. So that is just a tidbit for anybody who might be involved in both of those areas. All right. So there's another question for the FAQ. Will the U.S. contingent take responsibility for evacuating IST? This did not happen in South Korea.
That is a good question. That was a challenge that I heard. I mean, I was a scoutmaster, so I was not part of the contingent team. But as I mentioned earlier, we are going to have a member of the CMT that's going to be dedicated to the IST. We're going to make sure that we are aware, where people are, and as issues come up, we'll make sure that everyone is informed and work with them. So I know there were issues, on different levels in Korea. We're going to make sure that we have those addressed and have a really good communications plan while we're over in Poland. Like I said, that's why we met with our embassy. That's why we'll meet with them again next year when I go back, and the year after, so that, issues that come up, we're trying to anticipate them.
All right, so that is the end of our question section. I appreciate everyone who's joined us tonight. As the leadership team, we appreciate your interest. I'm going to be brave enough to ask you to go and tell 5 more people, and also tell the units that you're members of about this opportunity, because that's how we can reach our goal of, I'm just going to say, Bill has an informal goal of 30 units. That's a lot of scouts. So I need each one of you to ask 5 more people to learn more about the World Jamboree. Have a great night.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending, and for those on the CMT that put this together. I do want to also thank John Michael Gillespie for coming up with our contingent logo, which really looks great, and Tri Dung Vo, who's put together a lot of graphics. So people you saw here, plus a lot of others. Tony Wood is working on the swag. A lot of people involved. So thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Right.
Right.
Good night.
Okay.